All right, so let's see how that works. My apologies for that. That is kind of embarrassing to have to restart your stream like that mid, but it doesn't seem to be coming back. Wow. We still have a little bit of a lag. Hopefully that it's not too terrible. It doesn't make the chatting too bad. But it looks like we're back for now. So updated that text. If the lag gets bad, let me know. And we'll try and see if we can't keep this lag down. So hopefully it's just only a few seconds and not a few minutes. That font has got to change. So let's get that back. So the color's better. Let's go. What do we have? What was one? I think no. Whoa. Unica 1, I think is what I'm using on the other ones. That looks a little better. I think we'll go with that for now. We'll save that. Get that updated. Get that font looking better here. All right. So let's get back to work here. So what we're going to do, we're going to create our new PR. Get this put in, create initial project and solution. I want to basically assign it. There's that commit. Now, let's figure out how to associate it to our issue we were working on. Able to merge, that's a good thing. Reference an issue or pull request, perfect. I think it's issue 1. Issue 1, so this is actually, so this is using Markdown in here. So if we look at our preview, okay. Let's say resolved issue 1. Resolved issue 1. Created initial project using .NET, ASP.NET Core, preview ASP.NET Core 3, preview 3 template with Razor components. Cannot type today. It's a normal day for me. With Razor components template. So we want to get that in there so people can start looking at it, get it going. So this is actually going to be the first pull request that I've actually created for my, well, I guess my own, but it's also going to be the first one I'm able to look at and merge. So one of the things being the owner of this repo is I get to actually look at it and merge it. So my hope is that the other members of the team who are contributing and helping us out here will be able to download this, get started on their components, take their issue, create their new Razor component that we can then integrate into our main site page. One of the things that I am going to, as Steve mentioned earlier, I am going to take a look at his clean architecture because I do like getting things sorted out up front. I think it's much easier to do that than try and refactor a project down the line, especially when references start getting moved around. So I'll be reviewing that over probably the next couple days, and then maybe either create some issues or creating some new structure for the application. So let's go ahead and so I can open in GitHub. There's command line instructions. I kind of know what I did, so I'm just going to merge this pull request in. Confirm the merge. And there we go. So now if we actually come back over to our code, and we look at our master branch, we can actually see we have our new site now, which has all that in it. So now everybody can go and pull from master, create their fork from the master branch, and then put their pull request to go back into master. All right, so let's get back. Let's get some code going on here. Oh, so let's. Again, if you weren't with us yesterday, we are using PoshGit inside Windows PowerShell. So it does just let me know where I am. Gives me a quick view of my status in Git as far as what changes I have committed, what don't I have committed, whether they're staged, unstaged, as well as I can figure out what branches are also pending. So I do git pull here. It should already be done. I've done it. Yeah, already up to date. That's what I thought. It is telling me that there is a new update for master, so I can just do a git checkout master. Deletion of directory Tulsa failed. Should I try again? No. Reason it can't do it is because I actually have it open in Visual Studio. Do a git pull. What it was trying to do there, for those who aren't used to Git, it was trying to basically reconcile the changes between what I have now and what is currently in master. And it wanted to get rid of the whole website because it's not in master. Well, it is, but it's not in my version of master. When I do a git pull now, I'm actually going to take master that is out on GitHub and pull it down to my local Git repository. And there, as you can see, before, it was telling me I was 2 commits behind. Or 2 changes behind. I don't know if it's commits or changes is what that number means. But I was behind. And so when I did the git pull, it actually brought me up to date and current. All right. Let's get the website back open here. Reload. All right, so one of the things we found out last time, which is the current layout of it. So we currently have pages in here, which it uses an index.cshtml. So if you're familiar with the previous version of Razor or MVC, I think MVC. It's been so long since I've not done an Angular application. This is a little foreign to me. That it's the index.cshtml. It's just the main entry point, the first page that's actually loaded, and it's actually inside there. It's going to render some HTML from this app, which is referring to our app.razor. So in preview 3, which is one of the big changes from the previous previews, they've actually implemented the extension .razor for the Razor components. And so that's what you see here, app.razor. Now, I did pull up the documentation earlier because I want to try and go through the documentation as we're learning this. Let's go through and see how Microsoft is doing on their documentations. And one thing I found, though, is that it's still referencing information as part of Preview 2. In Preview 2, they had 2 separate projects, one for the Razor components and one for the initial page. And both extensions were .cshtml. And with the intent that they were going to combine those. So this was the incremental iterative development process they were going through with the previews. They've now implemented the Razor file. The one thing I did find when we were back in Visual Studio is that if I wanted to create a new Razor component, say a Razor page, they didn't have the actual template for the new Razor page in here. So if I search in here for Razor, it's going to create a Razor page. But if we see down here, it's actually created in a .cshtml. View, a layout, all of them are still the old style, the old structure, the old, when you're just live streaming, your words fail you, your mind starts to go. It's not that I'm turning 40 or anything, but hey. Yeah, I know. All right, so get back on track. So we want to create a new component, but the template actually isn't there in Visual Studio yet. And just for those questioning, let me cancel out. I did spend time yesterday updating to the latest version of the RC. So I am running Visual Studio 2019 Release Candidate 2. So that is, it's not, it just hasn't, the template just has not made it into Visual Studio yet. I before they release it in April, the final version of Visual Studio, I expect it to actually be there. That just some little things that they've got to fine tune. So what I ended up doing was, it was pretty simple. I did add a new item here, and I just added a text file. I went and searched for a text file. But all I did was I just changed the extension to Razor. So when the compiler starts looking for things, it's going to look at the extension of the file. So let's call this I'm just going to create a sample just to show you how this is working, or how I did it yesterday. If anybody does know a different way of doing this, please let me know, and we will definitely go that route. But I've not found a way to do it. Steve might have a little bit more insight into that, but I know he does work with a lot of the teams on getting some of their sample applications updated, as well as, I believe, Steve, I believe you're an MVP as well. If not, you should be. So just created a Razor page. Now, one of the best things about these simple samples and templates is they do give you a little bit of information. So I can open this, and I can use this as a template per se, meaning I can look at the things that it's doing on this page and mimic that to what I want to do. And the good thing about these Razor components is they've made it pretty straightforward. I don't want to say simple, because nothing is simple. There's always gotchas to it. But we have a page. So this attribute, this declaration here, tells the compiler that this is a Razor component. It's a page, meaning it's a page to be navigated to, I guess is the best way to say it. And then this piece after it is actually the routing information. And so what I'm doing defining here is saying, based on my base, the route for this page is my base URL / counter. And so when something tries to navigate to that counter, it's going to load this page. The other cool thing that we learned yesterday, this functions block here. So it was originally thought this may be TypeScript, this may be JavaScript or something, but it is CSharp. At least that's what the documentation says. So based on some of the Preview 2 stuff, it's typically implemented in CS/HTML files using a combination of CSharp and HTML markup. So the functions block, or more than one function block is permissible. It's going to contain all your state information, event handling, functions, all that kind of stuff. But it's C#. And so, but you can see here it's also referencing Blazor. So that's the other project that's being brought along with this, is being able to bring C# back to the web. I know Jacques was gave me a little hard time when I mentioned Silverlight, and I think he almost turned around and left the stream for that. But I love XAML. And excuse me for a second, I've got a puppy who is trying to eat my chair down here. Hey, stop. Chew on your bone, not my chair. All right. Sorry about that. She seems to think she can chew on whatever she wants to chew on, and she gets all the attention she wants when she wants it. So back to it. So here we've got basically some C# code we can get to write. And it's going to contain all our logic that goes out. And we'll take a look at some of this here in just a second. It goes start telling us how to use components. So one of the awesome things we can do is if not just create pages, but we can create reusable sections. And hopefully that's what a lot of our stuff will be is components. So a lot of our issues when we talk about viewing things or sections of our page, the idea is we want to make those components. And so the components are going to allow us to basically take a lot of that logic, that HTML, and break it up. And this is going to follow, I think, along the lines of Steve's clean architecture solutions. And so it's basically making it composable, modularize it. And one thing we may do down the line is we may actually create projects. So that was the other thing that they did with this this re-envisioning of ASP.NET Core with Razor is we can now create class libraries holding all these Razor components. So with that, we can actually easily create NuGet packages that create functionality that we can create for the world to use and anybody to use, or if you're an enterprise, for within your enterprise, store it out into a NuGet package that's easily imported and used by other developers and other teams. But for us, we may end up, depending on, I'm still kind of toying around with it, we may end up creating some libraries for some additional functionality we're wanting to add, such as the survey pieces that's going to be coming down the line. Basically taking our user group survey evaluations and making that an electronic. That's kind of on Sean's roadmap. So want to make sure I get my rundown updated over there, my agenda. So we did create the PR and merge. Right now we're exploring Razor components. One thing I do want to point out, based off some of the conversations that we had yesterday on the stream, I've gone through and that's the wrong GitHub repo. There it is. I've gone through and updated some of the issues. So if you'll look here, we have a couple of updates here. You can see some comments. The information that our fearless leader, President Sean Whitesell, sent us yesterday, sent me by email, sent me a text document that had all this information in it. And I've actually put it into our comments here. So the idea is as you're going through, you're looking for something to take on, to work on. One thing I want you to try is, can you assign it to yourself? Can you assign this to you? If you can, awesome. If not, just comment down below in the issue saying, hey, I want to work on this. And that just lets everybody know, hey, somebody is already working on this. We need to move on and grab something else. The other thing is, if you feel like there's content missing or questions you want to know that you want answered on some of this, leave a comment. Tag whoever in it. So one of the things I didn't do yesterday was tag Mr. Whitesell. But let's go ahead. We can do that. Let's see if we can. Let's see if we can't tag him in here. Thank you at Sean W. I think 221. Does that work? Do you like that? No, it doesn't seem to be. I'm not sure how that gets filled out. Obviously, it's not searching every user on GitHub. But if you can assign it, maybe if you start becoming a part of the project contributing, your name automatically starts getting put in there. That's what I'm guessing, but we'll find out. Thank you, Sean, for the info. All right. And just put the comment in there. All right, so let's go on to the next thing. We were exploring the Razor components, so let's jump back here. If you hear some weird sounds possibly coming, my dog has now moved on from chewing on my chair to a bone, which is better, but it's kind of noisy. So we talked earlier about these functions containing ways to go out and get data. So here's a little bit more complex one. So let's actually, I think I have this running. Let me close that. Close all those. Open that up. All right. So I don't remember. This may be the one I want. No, let's see. Let's see what website we have running. Looks like it actually shut itself down. That's okay. We'll bring it back up and run it. Debug, start without debugging. Right, there we go. Yep, so that was the right address. It just had shut its, IS Express shut itself down. So this is our website in a nutshell, how we have it today. Counter, it's loading up that counter page, which it used to be a little bit faster than that. Very interesting. Did IS Express shut down? No, still shows it's going. All right. Hello. Go to counter. Okay. I don't think it knows what it wants to do. Should be able to do that though. No. So the routing, one thing I didn't do, I didn't build it. Let's try and rebuild. Maybe we'll do a clean now. So one of the things it wasn't able to do was clean up previously. So when we basically checked out master. So let's clean it. If your stuff always, if ever, just a tip, if it ever starts to start acting wonky, a couple things to try before you think it's your code. Restart Visual Studio. Not going to try that here. Clean your solution. Get rid of all that stuff that's been previously built. It could have something cached in there. So we're going to clean the solution. I'm actually going to run this and see if that does something a little bit better. Yeah, so something was not going right with it. So if I hit counter now, waiting for response. So this should, yesterday when we ran this actually ran pretty fast. I was able to click through these pretty quickly. I don't think I made any changes in here. Let's look. Come over here and do a get status. Does so logo.razor. So I created that. It may not be liking that. It may be saying, hey, I need to know more information about this. So there it went to counter. So it looks like it went to counter, but it didn't. Yeah, so the whole thing. I wonder if it's Edge dying. Wouldn't be the first time Edge has crashed. Been an issue. I typically do all my stuff in Chrome. Edge should get better once they switch over to the Chromium engine, in my opinion. It's solely my opinion on that. So let's change our browser here. Let's open it up in Chrome. See what happens there. See if we get a little bit better response, a little bit better workings out of Chrome. Okay, so the page loaded up. This is what we expect. Now, if I hit counter, I do expect it to do something. Let's look in our console, see if there's anything happening here. Normalizing Blazor, yeah, okay. Network, elements. Yeah, something's just not copacetic with what's going on. Let's check out our new page we created here. So we created this logo.razor. Let's make it a page. And then we'll give it a way to get to there. We'll say logo. Get your hands on the home row, Ryan. No! All right. So do that. Let's implement the function block. We're not going to do anything in it just yet, but we want to go ahead and let's just see if that helps things out a little bit here. Okay, no, not that site. Okay, so shut that down. Let's start it back up. Always a fun thing when you start playing with new technology. Things don't always work the best, but we can hopefully get them to where they work. Yeah, you can see the process just jumped once I hit counter. Let's try fetch data here. Something's not right. All right, so we're going to go through one of the things I said, restart Visual Studio. Because we are still running on a release candidate. It should be go live, I believe. But you never know. I'm going to shut down all of my Visual Studios. That way we get everything cleaned up here. Visual Studio RC is what we want to do. Tulsa DNUG website. Yeah, I do see my image, my green screen going a little fuzzy there. So I'm bring back up my, I have a little nice bright window over here that just keeps everything hopefully well lit enough that it stops that. There. Okay, so remember we talked about when in doubt, restart. That's how things usually are, especially when you start getting into preview stuff. Sometimes you just need to clean things up because they are going through, they are trying to improve it. Things may not be exactly where they need to be just yet, but they will be. So we got functionality here. We click the button, the counter increments, go to fetch data. It's actually fetching data from, I think it's fetching it from a resource back on our server. And now we should also be able to go to, because we do have that new logo page, I should be able to go logo. I'm not going to see anything, but it is there. What I can do is I can create a new div, put in a span, say hello from logo. And if anybody remembers the awesome logo programming language, that was my first language when I was a kid. So it is something that really got me into development. If you don't remember it, you can look it up. You had a little turtle that you basically told to move around the screen. If you wanted to draw something, you put the tail down. You told it to put its tail down, then it would draw. When you didn't want it to draw and just move, you pick the tail up. It was kind of fun. I loved doing it. We made several programs. But obviously you can't do it without rebuilding the project. My hopes, that's one thing I liked about Angular. I didn't have to take things down and restart them. Not so much here. It does have to compile. It does make sense. I'm still not completely familiar with how Blazor runs underneath, but how it does all that stuff. So let's try to go back to logo here. And there's hello from logo. There we go. So we have our logo page. Come back to home, hello world, counter, fetch data. All still works. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. So when you get started, when you want to create your pages, your components, so that's what's in this shared thing, is actually a component. So you can see here, we can use the inherits attribute tag. I don't really know what to call this in Blazorland. Not Blazorland, but Razorland. It's kind of like an attribute to me. It's I'll figure it out. We'll get it. But this inherits from, it's called layout component base, which means there is something. Can I go to definition on this? Let's see. So there it goes. So I can't go to definition on that. So there's actually this class. It's actually inheriting from a class that has a bunch of functionality built into it. which is there's the render fragment body. So where was I? I was not there. I was on main layout. That's where I was. So you can inherit from other classes, other objects. But you can see this isn't a page. So when we don't define it as a page, it's now a component, which means I can actually use this inside other pages or other components. So if we look here, we have our nav menu .razor. And if we look here, inside here, it's actually using the nav menu component. So I'm going to bounce back here real quick. Here, you know, one of the things I can do with Visual Studio is I can put them side by side so we can see them together. Also, if my font is too small, please let me know. Or if I'm too loud or too soft, too quiet, just let me know and I will bump things up, make things louder, make things softer, bump up the font so people can read. I know, again, I said I'm about to turn 40. My eyesight's not as good as it used to be. And I'll never admit that in public. I guess I just did. This is public, Ryan. No! Yeah. All right. Well, so you run into issues like that, anything you want me to do, let me know. I'll bump up the font, all that kind of stuff. So as we talked about, this nav menu.razor is a shared component. And what that means is that it's just something we can use inside other pieces. Button, same thing. These tags are now becoming components inside these. So you can create a custom button and you can inherit from, I believe you can inherit from buttons. So the way inheritance works has, excuse me, has worked in CSharp and everything. I can actually take the functionality and the information contained inside one class, and I can say my class inherits from it. So I get all of that built into mine. And basically I'm creating a wrapper around it and changing it to be the way I want it. So I wonder if we look at, but I'm just going to look here. Can I? No. See, it's not going to let me do it. Not going to let me go to definition. That's what I was kind of wondering if I could do that. But yeah, it'd be nice if I could go to definition on these so I could automatically take me to that component, but that's not there, at least not yet. Not to say it's not coming. But so we have this nav menu component. So the way you reference it, it's just the name of the file. So that's how it's interpreting that. So if I create a new, and so my logo, it's not really what I'm going to actually, I'm going to take and I'm going to move this because I want to make that a component or a shared component now. I don't want it to be a page because I don't want you to navigate there. But what I do want to do is be able to have a logo that we can easily just slap on the page. And this may be a trivial use of the components, but I think it's a good example. So I'm just doing an href, an image here. So one of the things that Sean also sent me the other day was the wonderful image, and I think Jacques, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you created this for us. So we have our new .NET user group logo, and so I'm actually going to put that into our project here. I'm going to create, and I'm going to create an assets folder here for right now. Add new folder, assets. And I'm going to put that in there. And I'm just going to drag and drop that in here. We have a couple different things we could do with these. We're going to start off with, when I work with developers and I'm developing software, I do go by 3 rules. Make it work, make it right, make it fast. Right now, we're at the make it work phase. So we're going to just get things, we still want to use good practices, but we want to get things to where they're working. And then from there, we can make it right. We can refactor a little bit. Now, does that mean we slap something together, push it out there and say, yeah, we'll come back to it later. No, we want to make sure we do these pretty close together. They could be separate pull requests, but the idea is you don't want to have that lag behind. You don't want that to be a task that is forgotten. So I brought that in there, and so we're now going to, okay, I don't want that. It's been a long time since I've done this. Yes. So I can drag and drop in there like that. And so now we have a way to do our image. And all right. So now what that's going to let me do is I can come to our main layout here, which if we come back and look at our page, it's not running right now. Let's start it back up. This is our main layout we have here. So you can see we have the sidebar, which is this piece, and we have the body. Now I do gonna have to figure out where this about. I'm guessing this is part of our index. We'll go look at that in just a second, as well as this title here, because I don't see those defined in this main layout, which means they're someplace else. Or I take that back. It actually is defined. It's right here. You have the top row, but we don't have, I don't know where it's defining Tulsa DNUG. So, because there's that about, which is this piece right here, the class top row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert our logo. I'm going to try and insert our logo right here, which that seems to be, my guess is that's actually part of the sidebar. Let's go look at sidebar. All right, which the nav menu is really what that is. So I'm going to take that. I'm actually going to bring that over into here. And so there is our toggle. There it is right there. So let's take that and we're going to replace this here. So this is using an anchor tag. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to put that new logo inside here. And you can see it recognized. So I did get IntelliSense, which is one thing I honestly didn't expect to work very well, but it is right now. So you can see here, it's actually the little symbols telling you it's how it's referencing it. Get a little bit here, it's talking about the components, get a little bit more information. And so it's using the file name to reference that component. All right, so now if I rebuild this, the sizing may not be right, but that's okay. You know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to start without debugging. Because what I want to do is I want to keep this up. I want to keep this running. Just one of the things that frustrates me is I have to stop and restart, so on and so forth. Did I not build? So there's that. There's that piece. This should be right. Let's do a hard refresh here, see if we can't get it to work. Now let's look. Sometimes when things don't work just right, it's because I don't have everything set up correctly. So this is still referencing the old way. Okay, so why did that not build? Well, let's just kick it up. Still not using it. Still not referencing it. Is there a build error we missed somehow? Not seeing one. Let's toggling the nav menu. So let's undo this. Let's do this, undo this work here. I'm going to see if this is actually referenced anywhere else real quick. There we go. Find all. So I've got it there. It's where I expected it. This title, if I look at this page, I expect this is actually going to be the title in the tab, which is fine. Launch settings.json. So it should be this. Let me try something else here. As we're working and playing with this. Yeah, when I stopped it, it actually brought it back down. All right. All right, so that did not change that. Things that make you go, because that should have changed that. And it's using Bootstrap right there to actually handle the sizing and changing of that. So why is it not fixing that? Why is it not registering that change? Let's clean the solution. Maybe we have something that it thought it needed to rebuild, but it didn't. And then let's rebuild our solution here. Build succeeded. Let's rerun it. It comes back up. There it is. All right. So I honestly have no idea why it's doing that, but these are some of the quirks you may run into when you're developing, you're working on this site, trying to get things going. It's not your fault. The tooling, the things just aren't quite there yet. It's one of the side effects, the drawbacks to working with preview software. You get to see the latest and greatest. You get to try that stuff. You're prepared for the future when it comes out, but you may run into a few quirks or issues that you have to work around. So let's rebuild this again. Let's try this. The only thing I can think of is something about whenever I had IIS Express open in the background, and so it didn't. So you saw I updated that. So let's stop this. Let's clean the solution. Clean the solution. Let's rebuild it and let's run it. Very frustrating if we have to always clean their solution before we rebuild and run our project. Microsoft is hopefully going to take a look at that. All right, so you can sell. We did get this. It is our new logo, our new image. Now, if we come look at our console, we can see probably what our issue is. So, Blazor, sources. Let's look at our element real quick. My guess is just the way it's referencing it. This is what we want here. There's our div. There's our image, our source. It's wanting to look in the assets folder. That should be right. I mean, that should be where it's living. Do I not have that? Maybe not have that marked correctly. Let's look at our properties on it. Build action is none. Do I have to set it to a resource? Or content? I think we may have to set it to content. We're going to do content. Set to always copy. Again, chat room, if you got any idea, any comments, anything you want me to try, I'm all about it. I'm here to, it's rebuilding. Let's clean it. Let's rebuild it. And let's run it. And still no joy there. Sidebar. Here, real thing. I can just click this arrow, go to where I want it. It's going to take me there. Perfect. Div assets. The source is not finding it. Now, if I hard code it, I shouldn't have to do that. I don't want to have to do this. Go back to our component here. Actually, you know what? I bet I didn't need that. Of course, I probably need to clean it. Yeah, because if I look at this, no, it does have, it did, so it did take that change. It did do that recompilation. Did it like that? It did not like that either. All right, you know what? Let's go to the docs. Let's see if that works. Yeah, okay. Using components. So we talk about layouts here. Typically contain more than one page. Layouts. I wonder if they have anything on basically assets or images or something. Because honestly, this should work. Let's see what happens if I take this and do this. It should fail because it shouldn't. No. All right. Shouldn't be this hard. So there's the layouts. Okay, dependency injection routing. Components. Just using them. I want to use an image. Let's come over here and let's go to new page. Our good friend Google. ASP.NET Razor reference image. It's the correct way to reference an image. And this working with images and the Razor pages here. So the path. Let me look at mine. Let's see. Do I not need the slash? Is that what it's telling me? Is it that simple? It might be. That's why we test. Nope, not that simple. It's okay though. So display images dynamically. If an image is already available on your site and you just want to display it, you use the HTML image. So that's what we're doing. This is adding dynamic. So that uses an images folder. Uploading an image. The complete path is appended to the current website location. Because my thought is it's actually not copying that image and everything over. All right, let's clean our solution. Rebuild our solution. Do I need to do something to the problem now? It's content. We always want it copied. Let's rebuild. Try again. Still nothing. See, something tells me it's not actually wherever this is. Let's come here. Let's look at IS Express, our web application. I'm just going to browse there. Now it really doesn't like that. Oh, that's because this is Edge. A little bit different. Interesting. So that is there. All right. Adding an image should not be this hard. So this is working with images. Did I miss something at the very top that said, hey, you need to add this? What you learn is how to add an image to a page dynamically. Resize, float, rotate. What about the name instead of logo? Enter it as... So, Lorena, are you talking about on here, instead of using logo, use DNU logo? DNUG logo, I should say. Like this. So that didn't recognize. So really where we're running into, so it is fine. So logo is working as expected. What we're not getting is what the issue we're seeing. You know what? I'm more than well happy to try it. But typically what we're seeing, this issue, it's actually finding that. It's pulling that in. That's why we're able to see it in the browser. Except for the fact that, so I don't know if this will actually give me a compilation error. No, it says it didn't. What we're actually seeing is the fact that it's the image that we're referencing isn't accessible from our site. Yeah, so if we look here and we look at this area over here, it tried to actually, it couldn't find this tag element to replace. So what it's doing when it compiles and creates these pages, it's actually taking that element and replacing it with the HTML we have inside of that page itself. It's a good question, a good thought. I can kind of see the track, your thought process where you're going and testing that. So we're not getting is this just isn't pulling in correctly. So, oh, this is, so you see this right here is telling me a little bit of information. It's trying to help me out. IntelliSense is trying to work when I did that. So it was actually trying to go to a CSS piece, which that is defined. Where Where? Under the root folder, CSS. Now, do I need to add? I'm betting if I do that, I'm betting it'll work now. So what was happening is whenever it was building, it wasn't copying over the assets folder to this www root. Now, whether that's the expected behavior or not, I'm not sure. We'll find that out. But let's give this a shot. Let's rebuild. And then let's try this again. No. The thing I'm going to do though is let's just see if we can get IntelliSense to work for us now. Oh, slash. So now I have access to that, and I get that. So I'm going to clean our site. And then I'm going to rebuild. And then we're going to try this again. And we are hoping that this actually works this time. So it didn't, but what I'm hoping is if I do this, tell me whether it's actually accessible. And there we go. So now what we didn't get before was this actually couldn't find it. What this is telling me now is that this is accessible to us from our site. It's exposed by our website now. So I'm wondering if I get rid of this, does it work? So now that we know it's there, we can expose it. Let's see what happens when how we have to change this source to be able to work with this new location. There we go. Okay, so it didn't like the tilde, the little squiggly, and the slash. Because there it is. It's massive. That's okay. You know what we can do? We can put some styling behind it and make it look better. So let's add a little styling to this. Now, when working with Razor pages, how does it want us to actually do the styles? Do you put a style per component, or do you have a main CSS or Sass or less file that you're working with? I'm just curious real quick. This was referencing, so this wasn't yeah, okay. All right, so create and use Razor components here. Now, one thing I do want to look at is styling. It's still basically global styling. Is that what they want you to use? Host and deploy. This talks about hosting models. Server-side hosting. Some SignalR stuff that would be very cool if we have a need for that. I don't know that we do. I don't know that we really have a need for SignalR, or at least right now. We may when we get into the assessment. That's not what the survey of the speakers for the user group. The evaluation. That's what I want to say. All right. Components. So this is using class. This is actually all bootstrap stuff. So is this talks about Razor components, but then it's talking about here less Sass and font awesome, which we'll get into. But I'm guessing that we want to basically we're just going to modify our CSS in here. So this is just using plain CSS. And something is happening. Yep. So one of the perks of using remote desktop is sometimes your connection fails, as you can see here. So hopefully this usually comes back pretty quick. I run into it once or maybe twice a day. What it does allow me to do is keep my streaming setup pretty consistent across there, and then work, and then still work on my work laptop with my nice setup I have. So, though I will probably have to revisit it soon, simply because it is getting a little cumbersome. All right. So where we were at site.css, which is giving me all the site for our information for our site. So this is talking about that. Let's find out where our image is real quick. So our logo, and we don't really want to do that. We just want to put a class on here. Keep it simple, Ryan. Just keep it simple.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yep. I can't make it complicated. Just keep it simple. And so we're going to call this UG logo. All right. Let me go back to our site.css. I'm going to create a new. Now, can I? Oh, it doesn't. So I have a little shortcut here. Control M and O will basically usually toggle will collapse all my regions, all these areas with these little minuses here. Doesn't work in CSS, which that's okay. We don't need it to. But I do want to make sure I stay within my. Just add it to the top here. So dot. We called it UG dot underscore logo. And then we can just set a height on this too. Let's start off with, I don't know how tall that bar is. Maybe I can find out. So one of the benefits of doing this, I can look at this element here and tell how tall it is. That's padding. Height is 3.rem. So let's make it 2.rem and see what we get. 2.rem. So normally I deal in pixels, but this is using rem, and let's figure out what that means. So if you're not used to CSS styling or anything, you might be wondering, what does rem mean? So basically it's a unit of measurement in CSS. That I could have told you that one. Term rem before listening to the radio. REM stands for root EM, and EM, all that junk. Let's see what EM. Here we go. A band from the 90s. Jockeys, you are correct. REM. I used to listen to them. EM is equal to the computed font size for that element's parent. So that's, I don't know exactly, do they actually say what EM stands for? I don't see it. But that's what it is. It's basically, it's a relative font size. So instead of specifically saying, I want it to be 50 by 50 pixels, you can say, based on the parent's container, I want it to be relative to that. So here's kind of an example here. An EM is equal to the computed font size for that element's parent. So, for example, if there's a div element defined with font size of 16, then for that div and for its children, one EM is equal to 16. So that tells you that. And so this tells you about when you start doing like 1.5 or 2, it basically starts doing multiplication and that kind of stuff. So it lets you define the size of the outer one. Jacques says REM is the base size for body, usually 14 pixels. And so yeah, that the REM is the root. Root. It sounds weird when I say it, but so we'll try 2 REM here. 2 times the base root. And he says usually it's 14 pixels. So it would be 28 pixels is what we should end up with. And let's run it and see what it looks like. And there we go. It's a little small. I don't know what you all think about that. I also want to move it over. So let's do a little bit more styling here. So let's go look at our logo. Created that div. Let's go back to our site CSS here. And you know what? I'm actually, one of the things I like to, instead of starting and restarting, I can actually use my container, or use the developer tools in my browser to go and update that element's information. Just so I can test and play with what one looks a little bit better for my page. So there you can see 3 REM. Now you notice it's actually starting to move outside the bounds of it. When we don't put any REM on it, it's huge. There's 1 REM. So I think 2 is actually probably the right size. But I think it's a little hard to read. Now, we may have to find a better place to put this then, rather than putting it up there in the corner. Or I may have to see if I can render it to a smaller size. That way it looks a little bit more crisper or cleaner. Jacques, if you want to play with that and you want to try that, go for it. You probably actually have the original image that you can modify and update. The other idea is we could probably put it out here on our main page and then put information underneath it. Let's look at that. So the beauty of having that component is I can easily move that now. So all I'm copying and pasting now is, instead of all this stuff, I'm just that one little tag. So let's go to our main layout here. So this actually has the body, and so it's actually referencing the home page. Which is index page, which is this. And so we can now put in our logo. And I'm going to go ahead and take it out of our nav. Yeah, what was it? Sorry, I was talking. So, Jacques, on our, if we look on our page here, and actually I'm going to bring it up just a second. Did I remove it? It's still there. All right. Let's run this page back up. So one of the things we saw when we put that logo in our upper left-hand corner was at that size, it's a little small and a little hard to read. So the idea is that maybe you have the opportunity to go and, since you have the original image and original stuff, you can go in and update that and play around with it, see if is that where we want to do it, or one of the other ideas I just had was maybe we'll put it out in here on our home page with some information below it. Certainly, if you want to take that on, you want to check it out and try it, go for it. We'll play around. We'll just try to figure out what works best. Okay. So I'm going to move it out of here. Stop and rebuild. pay attention, Ryan. So there's a cool thing you can add. You can actually have your computer play sounds whenever your build succeed or it fails. I may go do that. That way I'm not just sitting there waiting, especially like I just did, and I looked at it and it's been done. How long has it been done? So let's take a look at this real quick. So we can go ahead and we can adjust this now. So we set it at 2 REM. Let's try 12 REM. How does that look? See, that actually looks really well. That looks really good. It needs to be centered, obviously, but I kind of like that. So it was an SVG originally. It may be on my Git. So the SVG may actually render better. I don't know. Let me look at that real quick. So using an SVG inside a website. Let's see. How to HTML image, my tag source SVG. Using SVG. If I save the SVG to a file, I can use it directly. And let's look at this real quick here. Using SVG. So the beauty about SVG, if you don't know about SVG, it's scalable vector graphic is what it stands for, which means it actually has some math behind it. It's actually drawing the image instead of having the pixels already predefined. And so what it does is it allows it to scale cleanly and crisply. Jacques may be able to explain it a little bit better, but that's just an easy understanding that I always understood. So here you can see, so this is what kind of, when you break down an SVG, this is really what you get. You actually get a bunch of paths and everything, and that way when the image is actually changed, those paths are actually drawing that image. Image source Kiwi. And so here you can see they've actually done it in this little CodePen site. So it's the same image, but you can see it's actually pretty crisp and clear as it scales up and scales down, instead of having to go in and create multiple image sizes. It does have, you do have to have some browser support. So this says works everywhere except IE8 and down. I don't know that we care. Maybe we do. Hopefully everybody's off of IE by now, but at least if they're on to IE11. And Chrome, if you set it to auto update, it should keep you pretty good. And this actually just looking at your browser the browsers on your phone. So if you're using any kind of modern phone device, you should be okay. Yeah, it's an XML document with instructions how to draw the image. Yes, thank you, sir. Yep, perfect. That is exactly the best way to explain it. So if we could do SVG, that is awesome. One way is to test for support with Modernizer and swap out the source. This actually is a pretty nice, if we do want to support some lower browsers, that's actually a pretty nice solution. I actually kind of like that. But again, we're going to play around with it. We'll see how it goes. So, all right. So if I'm not doing a good job of keeping my rundown up to date, but I'm actually going to have to, stream actually went a little bit longer than I wanted. A lot of it is due to the technical difficulties, but let's recap just a little bit because I didn't get to the site layout. One of the things I wanted to do is I wanted, again, before I got here, got to the stream, I wanted to have like a little design of kind of what we thought about how to lay out the application. So there are, from as far as navigation goes, I think for this initial one, we're going to have like one page. The only time, except for, let's go back to our GitHub repo here. So kind of in my mind, if I look at these issues and I'm breaking this out, email newsletter is a component, something we're going to drop in and drop onto the homepage, the main index. Contact us, the same thing. A little bit of information about us, and we do need to add that. Links and images for Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Actually, I put that in there. I'm going to figure out how to get Sean in here. That way I can ping him. He gets an email, and then he can update that. So let's go back to the issues. Contact us. I can see it just a section on the page. If you look at a lot of other pages, it's just a simple area. I don't know that we're ready to have our own email server where we're being able to send and receive emails, or at least send them out. I think we want to keep it simple. View announcements. So these views, and I should probably rename them. I see them more as components, an announcements component, and maybe that's what I'll rename them to. But just a list of announcements, what we got going on. The data for that is, I'm thinking originally going to be driven by just a JSON file that is stored on the site. That way it can just simply pull it. It can call back to the server and it can pull it up. Meeting info, this is going to be pretty static. A lot of this information is going to be pretty static. Sponsor info, we'll have to refer back to how to be a sponsor page to get the different levels, but we'll create, this is again, in my mind, I'm seeing JSON, just with multiple sections for the different levels and who our current sponsor is for that, as well as image to their image, whatever it is. If they've got one out on a CDN or a content developer, I think a CDN stands for Content Developer Network. Don't quote me on that, but it's a place to store content. A lot of big companies will have all their main images they want for marketing and stuff that they share with others out on a CDN. That way somebody can easily go grab it and either reference that or pull it down. Current leadership, again, I'm seeing a JSON file, all separate. I mean, we could make one large JSON file, and maybe that's how we go. But I think in these terms, we just create separate JSON files, one for each component. And then ideally, we may use a database to back it at some point. As we get the site and start coming together, we'll start looking at using maybe a NoSQL database. Maybe a SQL instance, but SQL just doesn't make sense here to me. Content delivery network. Thank you, Jacques. Perfect. Delivery does make more sense. And we'll start doing that. NoSQL gives us if we especially use a document, that's kind of what I'm thinking, because all these are just documents that are managed somewhere. And then we may start looking at some authentication, depending on if we have an Active Directory for the user group, we may do some authentication and create a way to update that without having to go manually change the files. Updating it from a page or site or something would be preferable, but again, make it work, make it fast, and make it right. Oh no, make it work, make it right, make it fast. So we got to get to the making it work part. And this one, I think we're going to call this one done. Merged. Thank you for the PR. That was me. Thanking myself. And we're going to close and comment. And that closes that issue. And that's how we're going to basically mark. So if we look at our issues now, we have the concept of open and closed. And so as we close them or we think of new ones, then we just add and update this list. So now that we've kind of have the basics of the website, I'm not going to check this work in unless you want me to. But go out and let's create and start taking pieces that you want to try. If you run into anything, we do have our Discord server out there that you can post anything into, and Sean, or anybody can answer the questions. The idea is this is a community project, and so we want to make sure the community will create it, it will help it, and I'm just here to help guide it in some aspects as well as contribute, because it's kind of what I want to do on these streams. So that is everything I've got for today. We talked a little bit about the site layout. I wanted to actually do a little bit of laying out the site, but again, we got a late start and we got trapped a little bit in trying to figure out why some things weren't working. But that's the whole point of this stuff. We're learning. And hopefully you can see that no matter your level of experience, there are issues that everybody runs into. And we go through just a little bit of a process to try and figure things out. The teams I work with, what I typically tell them is, if you're spinning your wheels for more than an hour trying to figure out a problem, it's probably time to reach out. And feel free to reach out to whoever you trust or want to reach out to. You can post an issue on Stack Overflow. Send it out to Twitter. We're in Oklahoma, send out smoke signals. But however you want to reach the people you think could answer the question. So that is everything I've got for today. And thanks for those who attended, who stuck around, bearing with me as we started out with some issues. But it did teach me a little bit of stuff. I definitely have to look at getting my machine either cleaned up or try to figure out why things are running so hot that causes the stream to freeze, stop, all this other stuff. I don't know if these newer versions of my streaming software, because it does update itself, they've got some kind of memory leak or something that is just causing excessive CPU cycles to happen. So, but get them figured out. That's all this process. Hopefully, I'm going to watch this later, recording later. Hopefully the new widget over there. So there is that. I did do a little bit of updating using stream elements we talked about earlier on. If you missed it, and seeing if that works well. If not, then I'll change it out. But being able to see the followers and all that kind of stuff is going to help me out to hopefully be able to recognize those who contribute or who follow me. And if you haven't followed me, click the follow button down there. Any new follows help me get closer to an affiliate status, which then allows me to do some different things on the stream. I can promote people to, I think I can do a VIP, have some moderators, and start to grow the stream. And I think I can start getting some emotes in. And so that'll be interesting. Create my own little custom emoticons, if you're used to the term from like your phone, emojis. Create my own little custom ones that can be used basically on Twitch, wherever Twitch is supported, actually. Because there are several other things, like even Discord. You can actually get access to the Twitch emojis you put out there. So I've got a couple little things in mind, more of a garage theme, since this is Developer's Garage. So if you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know, and what you think I can do to improve it. The stream, myself, talking, my code, whatever, it's all open. I come on here because I want to become better, and I need help. If nobody tells me what's wrong, I can't fix it. So thank you. Everybody have a good day. Stay safe. It's been pretty windy out there, and we will see everybody next week. Bye.